Okay, Dante and Dante, you just got through watching this short clip. Do you think in that situation she should have a gun?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah,
Why?
to protect herself.
Should she be able to have a gun?
Oh, that's a really good question.
I think she should have better security, but yeah, I guess like a gun could help.
Yes.
Yes.
Why?
She needs to, defend herself, protect herself, right? Self-defense.
Do you think she should be relegated to a certain gun? Like, are you okay with her having a handgun?
Anything that can defend her.
What about like a rifle, like an AR-15?
If she wants it,
I think a rifle might be like extreme
a little too extreme, right?
I don't know that that's necessary. Yeah. It's like,
All right, let's change it. Let's say 4 guys kicked in her door.
yeah.
All right, shotgun?
Oh, right.
I don't know much about guns, but yeah, I would assume so, that she shouldn't have some sort of deadly weapon that is only used for war or, combat.
You can't guarantee that they won't overpower her, take her automatic rifle, and then go harm someone else.
I used to be on a rifle team.
Really?
Yeah.
So would you rather have your rifle than not?
I'd rather have a dog.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, over a gun? Take a guess at how many of these people have ever stared death in the face. Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. If you go and buy a gun for self-protection, it's because you've either taken the time to imagine yourself in some very uncomfortable situations, or you were lucky enough to survive one. Guns make you confront your own mortality, something no one in my generation wants to do. They'd rather live in their own make-believe imaginary world where bad things only happen to other people than take the necessary precautions to be ready to confront danger whenever it decides to appear. Which is fine with me, really. We're free to be naive, but when people start to impose their own naive worldview onto me, that's when we have a problem.
If you talk to any cop, they will tell you that one of the best forms of defense, especially around your home, or if you're out walking, is to have a dog.
Not true.
At least a dog that barks.
What about a dog who knows the person that's now trying to hurt you?
Wow, okay, all right. So you might have problems there.
Like, for ages, I grew up really thinking if something goes wrong, as long as I have my phone, I'm good. So what happens after you hit 911 and the guy's standing in front of you?
The problem is, I don't believe if I have a gun, you say I'm gonna go out and practice to learn, okay, go to class. If this guy puts a gun, and you're gonna shoot him. So I don't think if a guy puts a gun on me, it's gonna be in my pocket. And I'm gonna be shot anyway.
But one thing you're misunderstanding is that the only scenarios that you're gonna find yourself in is somebody just pulling a gun out on you. There are tons of other scenarios where you are more advantageous by having the gun on you, right?
I agree.
So you haven't really ever felt the need to own a gun?
No, I don't want to own a gun. I don't want to have to use it. You know? I feel like if I own a gun and I have it, then I might just have to use it.
There's that predicament, right? It's like, okay, well, if I strive for peace, would having a gun mean that I'm not a peaceful person, right? Because if I have one, that means I have to be willing to use it. And I haven't really gotten to the place where I know that I'm willing to use it.
I don't think we need a gun.
Why?
I don't know. I don't feel like...
You never found yourself in a situation where you felt threatened?
Have I ever found myself in a situation where I felt like I needed to shoot someone? No.
You think that's incapable of happening?
Absolutely not.
This becomes more broader of an issue because what I've encountered quite a bit is people don't want to take the responsibility of protecting their lives. There's an old saying you may have heard once or twice. Live every day like it's your last. But what if it didn't have to be your last? What if you had the means to turn what could have been your last day into the day that you took your life back? So we have 2 fears. We have someone attacking you, being in a situation where you may need a gun to protect yourself, and then we have a gun that inherently right now you're afraid of because you don't know very much about them. But you can take the time to actually learn more, become proficient with the gun in order to use it to possibly defend yourself, you know?
Absolutely.
So which of the 2 fears would you pick? If I'm sleeping in bed at night and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and somebody kicks on my door, are they there to bake you cookies?
I'm not that naive. I understand that in the real world, violence happens, crimes happen, right?
Okay, so if somebody was coming at you with a gun and trying to kill you, would you prefer not to have a gun in the situation even if you don't know how to use it?
No,
I
would rather have one.
Okay. The one reason why most people think guns are scary is the very thing I believe which makes it the most adequate means to protect yourself. They're easy to use. You pick up a gun, you pull the trigger, and you shoot. Anybody can do that, from a 90-year-old woman to a 25-year-old male. And that equalizes everyone. Now, sure, a gun isn't perfect. It isn't guaranteed going to save your life, but it adds a degree of levelness to the playing field.
I'm just hoping it doesn't make you feel like you have to walk in a bubble, because now I have this gun and I've been in this gun culture in this world, and they talk to me about these things and I feel like I have to protect myself at times. And
that's the thing though, this didn't come about as a result of me being in the gun world and then making me think these things. We've all encountered situations where we've been kind of scared about what the next situation may bring, but my gun is not a guarantee. Don't confuse the idea that me carrying a gun thinks that no matter what happens, I'm gonna be able to take care of it. The thing about it is I'd rather have it and never have to need it than to need it in a situation where it would help me and not have it.
LAPD response time is X amount. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. 30 minutes. If something comes through that door or that window breaks in the middle of the night, are you gonna rest all of your faith on that LAPD response time? I might be a small statistic, but I'm still a statistic and I don't want to die.
We want to create more laws for the minority, the very small minority of people who do bad things with guns. And then they say it's for the greater good. It's to make us all safe. Well, let me tell you something. I'm not safe when someone's standing in my house wanting to kill me. At that moment, I don't care about the 90%, because right now I'm that 1% that's about to die. So give me what I need in order to defend that 1% moment that I have.
If somebody comes in and attacks you barehanded, you just gonna pull out a gun and pop them.
You're asking the question under the assumption that just because I have a gun, I'm always going to that gun in every situation. That's not what happens. What happens is I have a gun in the event that it gets to the point where I need to protect myself, then that's what happens.
Okay, let me finish. No. So we're saying that there's some room for ambiguity, right?
In terms of what?
In terms of whether the gun is the best way to protect yourself.
Is the gun
the only way to protect yourself in every single situation?
That's the point that I'm getting at.
It's not.
You're asking the question. If the person comes to my door and jiggles the lock and I answer the door, I'm like, what are you doing? And it's like, oh, sorry, wrong apartment. I'm not gonna shoot them.
Okay.
I'm gonna say, you have the wrong apartment, go to a different apartment. We gotta be careful when we look at what we think is really happening versus what's actually happening. Right. Because I was the same way. And I started looking into it, just like the way, like you went out of your way to independently learn and figure things out on your own. I did the same thing when it came to guns, because I was conflicted. But then when you start to read and research and then kind of investigate a little bit further, you start to understand the distinctions between reality and perception. And then once that happens, the light bulbs kind of click on, and it's like, okay, I'm responsible, I'm a law-abiding, I'm not perfect, but I generally do what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
Me having a gun, I'm no threat to anyone. I just want to live my life. And I don't want to be forced to have to lose that life prematurely because somebody wants to commit a crime and take that life from me. It all comes down to this. We as humans have the right to protect ourselves. And we don't take that lightly. We can't, because it's a matter of life and death.
Cops cannot be everywhere. If you look at our jails and our prisons, where do you think those inmates come from? Your neighborhood. So what they're gonna do when they get out? They're gonna go back to those same neighborhoods where cops gonna be 15, 20 minutes out. You have to be your first responder. You have to actually take responsibility in protecting your life. And the only way to do that is by training, going out there seeking that knowledge.
So I have a natural right to defend myself as a person. Am I not correct? Am I not correct?
You have the right to defend yourself.
No, I have the natural right
The natural
to
right to defend yourself.
It wasn't given to me. I own it.
And no one can take it.
I inherently own it.
You inherently own a right to protect
it's
yourself.
not a privilege,
It's
right?
not a privilege.
So because it's not a privilege, you don't then have the privilege to tell me that I can't own it. I don't need a document to tell me that. All that document does is reminds me, hey, guess what? You have this right. Because from a common sense standpoint, I have the right to defend myself however I choose to defend myself. At the risk of sounding like a street corner evangelist, this freedom will only continue as long as we're willing to speak out for it. I'm so sick of hearing about the so-called national conversation we're supposed to be having. It's time we had a local conversation. Get off Twitter, back away from cable news, and go meet your neighbors. Talk to someone new, introduce yourself, get uncomfortable. That's how we stay free. There's a reason guns are the self-defense tool of choice for most Americans. They're incredibly effective, extremely easy to use, and readily accessible to people who don't have the money, ability, or the time to become the next crouching tiger, hidden dragon. You don't have to be a sharpshooter to defend yourself with a gun. Whether you're a 25-year-old Olympic athlete or 65-year-old retiree, a gun puts you in the best position to defend yourself against a majority of attacks. However, that's not to say that carrying a gun doesn't come with a great responsibility. The day I got my license to concealed carry, my perspective on life changed. Every day from that point on, I would walk out of my house with something that could save my life and potentially take another. And that was serious to me. At the same time, I didn't just want to carry a gun and be able to shoot it in a self-defense situation. I wanted to be proficient with it. I spent hours researching bullet caliber, holsters, and gun choice. I finally settled on a Glock 19 RTF2 chambered in 9mm. I had the tools, but I still lacked the shooting proficiency. That's when I learned about the International Defensive Pistol Association, or IDPA. IDPA conducts shooting competitions which mimic real-life self-defense scenarios. I found a local match and started an IDPA Diaries shooting series on my YouTube channel. After 4 matches, I concluded I wasn't very good. I was more than good enough to deal with the typical self-defense situation, but I was nowhere near black belt shooting status. So now, here we are. My Glock 19 has had a bit of plastic surgery, courtesy of Colion Arms International, and though I stopped shooting IDPA matches, I definitely haven't stopped shooting. At this point, I can't help but wonder how much improving have I done between the first IDPA match and now. Am I in a better position to protect myself with my gun, or have my shooting skills somehow deteriorated over time? I decided to find out and put myself through the same course as my IDPA courses years ago and see how I do. First couple of IDPA courses that I ran about 2 or 3 years ago, one of the biggest problems I had was shooting steel. There was something about the steel targets and expecting to hear the bing sound that kind of messed with me mentally. And once I started missing, I definitely started running into problems after that. I will say that over time, I've become more accustomed to shooting steel and I've gotten more comfortable with it. Now, do I feel like I'm in a better position to protect myself with a gun at this point? I think so. But all of that stems from me continuously shooting over a period of time. And I think that's important for people to understand that shooting is a perishable skill, and that's not something that once you got it, you keep it forever. You have to continue to shoot, but doing better than you were is always a good thing.